Hello everyone, welcome to my very first episode of Roaming with Gypsy Stardust. My name's Trisha and I am the owner and dyer of Gypsy Stardust Yarn and Fiber. You can find me on Instagram if you'd like to see some sneak peeks of what I'm working on. You can also find our wonderful group on Ravelry. It's Gypsy Stardust Yarn and Fiber group. We do some really great stitch-alongs, projects, just sharing pictures and chatting. It's a very fun group. And most importantly, you can find all of my yarn and hand spun and hand knits on Etsy under Gypsy Stardust Fiber. You can find me in all of those places. So I thought with my first episode, I would give a little bit of background to where the name Gypsy Stardust came from. I come from a family of very creative people. My mother was an amazing sewer, an artist. She would also knit and crochet, very good with color. And she also was starting to get into jewelry making. She passed almost 2 years ago and was a big loss for me. But she always reminded me that we came from stardust. That is what she believed, that we came from stardust, that we were part of the universe. And when we would pass on, we would go back to the universe. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So that is where the stardust part of my name comes from. That's to honor my mother. And my grandmother believed that we were gypsies. She would tell me that she and I had gypsy blood. She would take care of me a lot when I was younger, and she would dress me up in colorful skirts and scarves and jewelry, and she loved her jewelry. Bright colors. She loved the zebra print and the pink and the black. So we would dress up and we would go grocery shopping. So it was like Mardi Gras all year long, just wonderful colors and dressing up. But she would often talk about us being gypsies. Now, I don't know if there's any truth to that or not. So I decided to try and do a little bit more research into my family ancestry and see what I could come up with. Now, I found out that her grandmother was a card reader. She would tell people's fortunes with playing cards, and I thought that was brilliant. That's awesome. But she would not tell your fortune until silver crossed her palm. Sounds like a very shrewd businesswoman. That sounds like a good business practice. But I'm having a hard time learning more about her. All I know is that her name was Grandma Giampetro. So she would be my great-great-grandmother. But my grandmother referred to her as Grandma Giampetro. So I don't even know where to start with that one because nobody knows how to spell it. Do you spell it like this? Perhaps like this. Maybe with an I? Maybe with a G? Nobody knows. How could nobody in my family know how to spell her name? I've asked my aunts. Nobody seems to know. I asked what is her first name, and they told me it was Nana. I know, right? That's the name in my family that we refer to our great-grandmothers as. My Nana was Nana Mancuso. Their Nana, I guess, is Nana Giampetro. So nobody seems to know her name. On top of that roadblock, I reached another roadblock, and that was what her maiden name is, because Giampetro was her married name. So what was her maiden name? I sent my aunts to try and figure out to see if they could come up with an answer. And no, they did not come up with an answer, because apparently this amazing card reader from back in the day was married not once, not twice, but 4 times. 4 times. That's crazy, even in today's standards. So I don't know what was going on back then, but I'm dying to find out more. I am starting to enlist the help of my great aunts now. I'm hoping if I can go back far enough, hopefully I'll be able to piece together and see if maybe this Nana Giampetro might be an interesting character in my search for where our ancestry comes from. I do know that she lived in West Virginia, and she would have been in West Virginia around early 1900s, I'm guessing, if I did my math right. My great grandmother, I think the 1900s, early. So I'm trying to figure out where exactly my family lineage goes. It's gonna be a fun ride. So I think what we're gonna do next is see if any of my knitting friends might have some interesting ancestry that they'd like to share with everybody. And we'll get a sneak peek at some projects that everybody is working on. This is take 2.
Take
knitting
2,
night.
and I actually have numbers moving on the top.
We'll see, there we go, that's recorded.
Knitting night take 3. With Kathy manning our video. Okay.
Dummy.
Are we sure we're recording this?
Yes, we're at 11 seconds now.
Okay. Take 3. Hello. I'm here with my awesome-tastic friend Patrice, and we're gonna try to talk to you about our family history. So earlier today I got a phone call from my great aunt Tony, and she had some more information for me about my great grandmother. She was able to tell me that she came from Italy in the early 1900s, that she married when she was 15, and she did confirm that she was a card reader, like my grandmother had said. She said she was an awesome card reader, and that businessmen from Pittsburgh, which was just an up-and-coming city at that time, they would drive all the way down and talk to her before they made any business deals, which I think is fantastic. Now, the man that she married was my great-great-grandfather. They ended up divorcing. She married again, and he died. She married a
She had 4 kids.
She did have 4 kids. I forgot that. She had 4 kids with my great-grandfather, so I guess that would be my grandmother, my Aunt Tony, my great-aunt Laura. Oh, I have so many aunts. It's crazy. So yes, she had 4 with him. The second husband died, the third husband died, and the fourth husband died. I don't know what happened to these guys. It seems a little questionable.
As long as I had money.
We'll see. We'll see if I can get some more information on that. But very interesting stuff. So I'm happy, and we found a name. Her name was Florence, but still no maiden name. Nobody seems to know what her maiden name is. So
I bet it's Italian.
well, I bet it's Italian, but we're gonna look into that some more.
Maybe
So
she was from Florence too.
my project for knitting night tonight is the Lucy top. I found it on Ravelry. It's got a nice lacy top at the bodice. It's going to be a t-shirt, and I'm using my yarn, which is the wardrobe from my Chronicles of Narnia set. Patrice, what are you working on?
I am working on the Hito Fude. It is a cardigan with lace work. And this is yarn I bought 5 years ago before I had children. This is a present to me.
Alright, so what can you share about your family history? What did you learn?
In talking with my mother, and she lovingly tells me about how most of my family from generations ago can be put in one of 2 camps. They were either dirt farmers or they were coal miners. My family is primarily from southern West Virginia, so that's really what they did. The stories that my mother told me about my grandparents growing up are quite humorous. They seem to always revolve around some terrible accident that happened. One in particular that stands out is my grandfather was raised on a farm, and in doing farm work, sometimes things happen to the animals, and in this case, my grandfather was working.
I already know the punchline.
This is the 3rd time you told it.
This is the 3rd time you've told it. Sorry, continue.
So my grandfather's out working, and the horse dies. And my grandfather was notoriously for having a weak stomach. And so what he ended up doing as they're burying the horse is he's digging the hole for the horse and then taking time to throw up. And then digging the hole for the horse and taking time to throw up. And he finally dug as much as he could dig no more. And they put the horse in there and started to bury it. And that's when they realized they had not dug the hole deep enough and the horse's legs are sticking out of the ground. And so my grandfather got to, isn't that terrible? Yeah, this poor man, I feel bad for him. But they ended up having to saw the legs off, so I'm fairly certain my grandfather probably threw up quite a bit more that time too.
It's very traumatized. You need to retell the story about the two-seated outhouse. I did not know what a two-seater was. I thought maybe she was talking about a bicycle.
She lived in a sheltered life.
Yeah, Trisha.
We still have an active one at our house.
Yeah. The farm, the same farm where the horse is buried with his feet sticking up, was my grandfather's farm. And when my mother would visit, one of the great things about going there, especially before the plumbing was put in, was that she and my aunt could literally go to the bathroom together because there was a two-seater. Trisha thought this might be a bicycle built for two. This is not the case.
I didn't realize it was an outhouse built for two.
It's an outhouse built for two. That way you could take your friend with you.
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So, oh yeah.
That's
But they are awful cold in the winter.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I've only been to that farm I think once. I was quite young because it's not in the family anymore. But yeah, I imagine that was.
We used to go to my uncle's farm out in Wisconsin, and you know, when you have 3 feet, 4 feet of snow out there, you didn't make it to the outhouse. They had a piss pot in the.
Oh my gosh. I would not want to get up in the middle of the night in the snow and have to go use an outhouse.
No, there was a piss pot.
You have a piss pot. Mm-hmm.
That also sounds incredibly. I'm just happy with my plumbing. Thank goodness for innovations in technology. Thank you for sharing all 3 times. It's been fun.
It's a pretty epic story.
Wait, are you still recording? My awesome friend Janine, and she has a story to share as well.
So
But before you share it, what are you working on?
I'm working on a shawl.
Ooh,
And,
gorgeous. Look at those colors. Is that like the drop stitch that you're
Yes.
doing in there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a drop stitch with just a. Oh, sorry, I have it backwards. And it's the Expression Fiber Arts yarn.
Gorgeous. All right. All right, what do you got?
So I come from pretty strong women, and my great-grandmother Mercer on my father's side was married to a man who worked for the railroad, and he was actually in charge of the payroll. So on Fridays, he would come home in the morning with payroll for all the men, and he would leave it with her, and then he would go back to work, and she would have to guard this money.
Oh my gosh.
So my father said that she would actually do her morning chores with a rifle beside her to guard this money, and she would be ironing, and apparently if there was any noise outside, she would just open fire.
Oh my gosh. Now, when was this? Like what time?
It would have been probably about the early 40s.
Okay.
So
That's pretty hardcore. She just shoots and asks questions.
pretty much, yeah. And like I said, she'd do her ironing with the rifle right beside her and everything.
That's
and then
crazy.
he'd come home at lunchtime and get the money and then take it back and pay the men over lunchtime.
Was that here in Pennsylvania or was that elsewhere?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh,
So-
very cool. Thanks for sharing.
Uh-huh.
What are you working on, or what have you finished?
I just finished my Solaris.
Also known as the never-ending shawl.
Yes, because it took me forever to do it because I kept ripping things out. And re-knitting and unknitting, which I became very good at.
Yes, I remember. Do you have any fun stories about your ancestors or lineage to share?
My dad used to tell us stories when they grew up. He grew up in a coal town outside of Wilkes-Barre. And his uncle was also the truant officer. So getting away from school was kind of tough for him. And if they did get away from school and they did get caught, they were sent home with castor oil, you know, for the day. But he used to tell us a story. There was this outhouse up this path, like there was nothing there on this hillside. And they had a habit of going and tipping it. And there was somebody in it. And they tip it with the door down.
Oh no, how did they get out?
Till somebody came.
Oh, that's so wrong. Oh, man.
And he was a pillar of the community down there in Cumberland, Maryland. He was a deacon in the church. He was on the town council. Everybody looked up to him, thought he was a wonderful soul, until the day he blew half of his house out because his still blew up.
Oh my gosh.
And then they knew what he was up to. Now, if you went up to McKeesport, where my mama's family was, quite a few of them were into the bathtub gin thing. It was very profitable. And if you gave some to the police, they let you alone. So those are the kind of people that I came from.
I love it. So, all right, what exactly is bathtub gin?
Bathtub gin. They have stills for the bathtub gin. They would just use the bathtub to make alcohol. And they would put the grains and everything in there and whatever made it alcohol. And it would be very, very, very bad. Almost as bad as moonshine. I mean, it could peel the skin off of you.
You can use it to remove wallpaper.
Yes.
People drank it.
And people drank it because this was the great social experiment called Prohibition. And there was no way to get decent stuff unless you were in cahoots with Al Capone and people like that. So to make money on the side, a lot of people made bathtub gin and things like that. And they had their skills, like my one uncle had down in Maryland. And they would sell it to their friends. And as long as you knew people, the local police department, they weren't going to come and do anything to you. That was up to the feds. So the local police department and the local governments would more or less protect the people who were making the alcohol because they were doing a public service, the way they looked at it, and they were getting theirs for free.
That's awesome. Right, we are back, and I love knitting night. It is a fantastic group of friends. I don't know what I'd do without them. It's my favorite night of the entire week, and I love seeing what everybody is working on and just kind of encouraging each other along the way. I hope all of you have wonderful knitting and crochet groups and circles of friends that you get together with every week. Now, a couple of my newest colors, because I don't want to talk the entire time. We have my Labyrinth collection. If you guys follow me on Instagram or Facebook or anything, you would see some of the newest colors that I just came out with. And they all have to do with Labyrinth. This is one of my favorite colors. I love this one. And I already have these two set up for a project. This is Sir Didymus, if you remember, who's the adorable little squirrel-looking critter who helped to get her to the Goblin Castle. And we also have One of Us Always Tells the Truth. If you remember those two magical doors, one of us always tells the truth and one of us always lies. The red is also available. We also have the Helping Hands. And this one that I showed earlier, this is You Have No Power Over Me, the magical phrase that breaks the Goblin King's spell. Wonderful colors. They're on sport weight yarn. They're very soft and squishable. And this is one of my gradient yarns. This is the Rainbow Gradient. Absolutely fun to work with. I love the colors. All right, so be sure to tune in to the next video. I'm going to try to put these out maybe once or twice a month, and I would love to hear what you guys are working on. So please, in the comment section, share what your projects are. Are you working on shawls? Is it your first pair of socks? Are you going to bravely work on a sweater? I would love to see what everybody is working on. So be sure to share your projects and subscribe so that you can tune in next time, and we'll see where we end up roaming. Bye, everyone.